20!
Is that a die from Dungeons and Dragons?
Maybe.
Are we allowed to play that?
Well, let's find out today on the UIC show.
Hey, welcome to the UIC show, where we're all about investing in next generation leaders. And today, as you just saw from the hook, we are talking about
Bible and magic.
woohoo! I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Woo.
Magic.
That's what we're going to talk about today on the show. Can we say that word?
Are we allowed to?
I mean, we're saying it.
Is it in the Bible?
Magic.
We'll find out.
Some references, and we're going to talk about that today, but we have a little icebreaker.
Okay.
You guys ready for it?
Ready.
Let's do it. Okay, quick icebreaker.
All right.
So what we want to do is we want to have this very serious conversation. I know we're already laughing, but it is a serious conversation. I know, like, I grew up in, anyone who grew up in Christianity in the 90s remembers, like with the rise of magical things. Like
No Smurfs.
Yeah,
I wasn't allowed to watch the Smurfs because that was
Magic.
It was
Too much
demonic.
magic.
Yeah, it was
there's a
magic.
Wizard, yeah. Lord of the Rings was a big deal. Even Narnia, written by a Christian, was like a big deal. And Harry
J.R.R.
Potter.
Tolkien.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings,
Well,
Christian.
Catholic.
Dang.
But, I guess.
We'll see for theology and
But anyway, so what we want to do today is we want to talk about that, have a conversation, but to ice break it, I have 5 quotes here that sound very spiritual, sound very Christian, and they all come from magic-oriented pieces of fiction. Our 5 options are Narnia, hit show WandaVision, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, or the MCU's Doctor Strange.
cool.
All
So
right.
all very magical. I'm going to give you a Christian-sounding quote, and you're going to guess which movie it's from, and we'll talk about it. You guys
Sounds
ready
good.
for this?
I'm ready.
Ready.
I'm ready.
Just hit the buzzer whenever you think you know the answer.
Oh,
whoever
too
hits
early.
it first.
I just heard him say it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a buzzer test, so that you guys can't say that it's broken.
Chris.
All right. Whoever buzzes first gets to try to answer first. Whoever doesn't buzz first gets to try to guess somewhere else.
All right.
Let's do
Sounds
it.
good.
First quote. What is grief, if not love, persevering?
That's WandaVision.
WandaVision. Good guess. Brent, what do you want to guess?
I haven't seen WandaVision, and I don't recognize that quote, so I say WandaVision.
The whole point
gotta
of the
pick
buzz
something
was
else.
you had points to pick
I
somewhere
have
else.
to choose something else. Say the quote again.
What is grief, if not love, persevering?
Oh, man. Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Good guess.
Cool.
This one will go to Chris.
Yay!
Chris, do you remember where that is in WandaVision?
That was Vision saying it to Wanda.
Wanda.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's not hard.
Yeah, there you go. Well done. Well done.
This has officially spoiled WandaVision for me.
Right?
No.
Wait,
not
Spoil-
Vision.
Speaks
spoiler
to
alert.
Wanda?
Spoiler alert.
I know. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, first of all, you're probably not a youth pastor if you're not caught up on WandaVision.
Whoa, 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 whoa. We only watch good stuff.
So I guess only half the room is a real youth pastor.
The show was great.
I'll hand
Wait,
in.
you stopped in episode 3.
It did. It just started off too slow for me. I was like, you know what? You got to go big.
Episode 4 is literally isn't episode 4 like the big
Oh,
one?
yeah.
That's where
And
that's where it turns good.
And that's where Jesse stopped, right when it gets good.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just didn't have time. I had
There's
more
a youth
important.
pastor in it.
I know.
There's the only youth
There is a
pastor in
youth
the
pastor.
MCU.
And
there is a
he's
youth
been
pastor.
working on his card skills.
He has
Yeah.
been.
Well, let's get back to the icebreaker.
Right.
All right, good job. Chris on the board with 1 point.
That's right.
Quote number 2. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Yes.
Narnia.
Narnia, good guess. Chris,
I'm
where
going
do
to
you want to
say
guess?
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. That quote is from Dumbledore of Harry Potter.
Oh,
Bam.
okay.
Yes. That's what I guessed the first time.
Dumbledore.
That does not count. I feel like Brent celebrates everything to try to gaslight me
Yep.
into giving him a point.
Yep.
Like everything I say, he's like, yeah.
Good job, Chris.
And sometimes in my mind, I'm like,
Did he
Brent,
get it right?
Did Brent get a point?
All right. Jamel, me and you, man. Woo!
We got this. But I didn't realize I didn't
man.
say anything the first time. But Tony does want us to think about the quote. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities.
What
I
is
don't know if
grief
it's really
if not
spiritual.
love persevering? That's
Yeah.
what it's like for love to endure something. Grief.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it oppose either of those
Right.
quotes contradict what we believe.
No, it's
No.
they're just kind of whatever. I think the second one kind of talks more to our character.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, it's not like what you know, but it's like what you act on, and that one has to do with abilities. Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's the decisions that we make, like in the middle of stuff, like the whole concept of being an integral person.
Yeah. Character.
So, character.
So I would say so far 2 for 2. Both of these quotes are like things that we as Christians would say like, we're not brainwashing. So far,
they're not amoral.
They're
just whatever.
Yeah.
I bet you people falsely quote them as Bible verses.
I
you
bet you could put a reference on it and and be like, oh yeah, it's Proverbs.
Oh yeah, it just add, like King James it up a bit.
There you go.
If not
thou.
3-4.
Thy choices are not truly thou.
King James.
Yeah, definitely.
1611.
All right, let's get back to the game.
All right.
Third quote. We never lose our demons. We only learn to live above them. Yes.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. Okay, Brent, how about you?
Well, I can't say what he just said. Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Good guess. Chris is right.
What movie was that?
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, the Doctor Strange movie.
Yep.
What part? Like
I think that was Mordo.
It was from the ancient one. The ancient
Oh,
one
okay.
said it
Okay.
in the Doctor
The
Strange
exact
movie.
opposite of Mordo.
Not the exact opposite.
Exact opposite.
Ooh.
We never
She
lose our
trained him.
demons. So I mean, I guess
She
that's
is a she.
it does
He is
kind
a
of
she.
apply to the whole, like
So say it again then.
we never lose our demons. We only learn to live above them.
them.
I guess there is kind of a spiritual. The battle with the flesh.
There is a spiritual
it doesn't
concept
go away
there,
after
but,
salvation.
but obviously they have a different way of going about it.
We don't
in
necessarily
Doctor Strange.
live above them. We live victoriously through Christ.
Yeah.
Which is supernatural but not magical.
I'm
Well,
gonna say spiritual.
And they use magic.
Spiritual
spirit.
and
Do we live above them? Because we live above with Christ, and they're going to be cast below into hell.
Whoa, look at you bringing the Bible.
That's already, but not yet. So right now we're living with
Already, but not yet.
Ooh, already, but not
What?
yet.
What
brain
what
couldn't
what
handle
divination is that, young
I
man?
don't have enough.
What kind of incantation?
I haven't had enough coffee to process what he just
Oh,
said.
man.
Already, but not yet.
All right, so far it's 2.
Thanks,
2
Ecclesiastes.
points, 2 points for Chris. By the way,
Yep.
there's 6 quotes, not 5, between 5 different possible places. So, something will be doubled up, just for the record.
All right.
Next quote. All we have to decide is what we do with the time given to us.
That's
Yes.
Lord of the Rings.
Who said it?
That's not part of the
I
question.
just want to see. You seem really confident.
I was gonna say Gandalf. That's like a voiceover from Gandalf.
Very nice. How about you, Chris?
That's
You
what
wanted
I was
to
going to
guess?
say too.
Well,
But
you
you can't.
rang second, and I think I made it pretty obvious that Brent is right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you were very confident. That's what I was going
It was
to
Gandalf.
so I didn't get the
right?
extra point, so now I've got 2.
Nope, no extra point.
Bro,
have
you
one.
always do that for him.
Was it
I did
Gandalf?
not
He's
do that for
losing.
him at all
When
this
he's
game.
losing, you always give him an extra point. Like, well, you said like
at the end,
the
if
referee
you're down by
chooses, and
enough-
I bequeath him extra pointness. It's
Was
the
it-
beard.
We can literally go back and see that I've been a very just and fair judge.
Oh,
You
yeah,
not say
I
just
can
and
totally
Says
agree.
every judge ever. Ageist.
Ageist? At first I said Asian. I was like, what does that do with anything?
I did not say that.
Oh,
Was that quote Gandalf, by the way?
that was Gandalf. Good job. I'll tell you what, if you're still losing after this one, then maybe the next one could be worth double.
I'm still gonna be losing. I've only got one answer
There's
right.
2 left.
But
You
I
don't-
only got
you don't-
2.
You don't need bonus points if you're still in the game.
Yeah, you're in the game, bro.
Very much in the game. I
Okay.
realize I'm not even monitoring my sound, so I could be
Okay.
terrible right now.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Safe? Who said anything about safe? Of course he
Narnia.
isn't safe, but he's good. He's the king, I tell you.
Yep.
Chris, do you have a secondary guess?
Lord of the Rings.
It's Narnia.
It's 1,000% Narnia. That's one of my favorite quotes.
Right.
Dr. Nate quoted it during a staff meeting like last month. It's awesome. Great quote.
If you go back and rewatch that, it's misquoted.
Oh, yeah.
They ask, is he tame? Not ask if he's safe.
Yeah. But if you read the book.
Wow. Fancy.
I'm not going to I tweeted recently, like every time I read the books, which is more often than I care to admit, but every time I get to the part where the beaver talks about Aslan and talks about like the chills that they all get, like I get super emotional.
Right.
Like every time it gets to that.
You're just showing that you're better than us because you read the books.
I am. I'm an elitist.
There's no question. I am
No
superior.
question.
I mean, it's like a 4th grade book, so I don't know if that really makes me that intelligent. Like, yeah, I read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Anybody?
I read a little Dr. Seuss, maybe.
All right.
Hey.
Can't
Whoa,
do it.
whoa, 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 whoa. We don't do that here.
I kept all my Dr. Seuss.
You did?
Yeah, they failed in making me racist, so
Racist.
I'm gonna keep reading them.
I'm out.
I'm gonna frame them on my wall.
It's my childhood memories.
That's too funny. We're tied.
Yep.
So this is
You didn't need no double points.
But say I need that point to get me one edge up.
No.
It's gonna all go down to the buzzer here. It is finished. Who said that?
Jesus in the Bible.
Yeah.
Someone else said it in one of these. Yes.
Since we haven't said it, Harry Potter.
We did say it. Dumbledore said.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
we
did.
did.
Dang it.
But that's your
So
guess. How
did
about
Brent, you have a real guess
you,
now?
Brent? You have a second chance.
It was Dumbledore that was said.
It was
No, earlier.
The abilities. Did I miss?
Lord of the Rings.
No. I was earlier. He was saying that no one said Harry
But we
Potter
did.
yet, but I'm saying that they
We did say Harry Potter,
So his
and we
guess is
said
Harry
Strange,
Potter.
and we said
We said all
Narnia,
that.
So
and we
what's
said
the
Wanda. So it's Lord.
Everything's
So
been
it's,
said.
so it's Lord
You
of the
already
Rings.
said
Everything
was
has
Lord
been
of the
said.
Rings,
We
too.
already had a Lord of the Rings. Gandalf.
We did. So
Lord
which
of
is
the
the
Rings.
repeat?
So I mean, but you guys already made guesses
Yeah.
because this was going to be a repeat.
Oh, I'm saying
Yours
it's the.
is Harry Potter. Yours is Lord of the Rings.
But
I was just saying it was the Bible. I'm sticking
it's
to the
one
Bible.
of
I didn't
those-
even
You're
think.
sticking with the Bible.
You're saying it is finished.
Yes.
It is finished. Well, neither of you guys are right.
I'm
Sudden-
upset with you
buzzer
guys.
round. Sudden death.
Doctor Strange.
Nope.
Wrong.
Narnia.
It was Aslan.
Come on, guys.
Picture
Picture of Jesus
He's the
Christ.
Jesus.
type.
I haven't seen it in
He
a while.
Holy shit,
copied
got
it from
that.
the Bible. That's why I said the Bible.
But you
Well, the
failed.
Bible is not a work of fiction.
I haven't-
Amen.
Amen.
That's right.
Amen.
I haven't read it
I was
since
wondering how you
in
threw that
fourth
in there.
grade.
Yeah.
I haven't read it since I was in 4th grade, so and I
I
haven't
mean,
seen
and
it
And
in
he
a while.
and he reads it in his 4th grade vocabulary weekly. Apparently.
Yeah, all the time. It's so good. I don't even read it. I listen to it on Audible.
I don't
not
know
smart
the
enough
words
to
are
read
too
it.
big.
So he was on the cracked stone table when he said it.
Yep.
It is finished.
Bro, come on.
And
How
then
did you
then the
not
little
get that?
then the little mice went up there and then took off the ropes.
3 points.
Well, so Chris, I mean, I guess you can call that a win.
Win.
You know, we went to the sudden death and we essentially eliminated all the other options. But hey, there was nothing to
And
win or lose
it
anyway.
clearly wasn't WandaVision.
Yeah. But this is just an icebreaker. You know, as you guys have noticed watching our show, we've kind of shifted from the focus of the show being the game to the game really just being an icebreaker to get into the real conversation. This is when we get podcasty. So here's the
right.
first
Okay.
question that we
I'd
got.
love to
Deep.
be a fly on this
Podcasty.
wall.
So there are several verses in the Bible that refer to what we might refer to as magic. Some translations use the term mediums, necromancers, and sorcerers. I think the King James has wizardry, I think, in it. I have to double check that, among others.
Did you know the King James had the word unicorn in it?
I did. I went to a
Oh.
Baptist college.
All right.
I
There
know
you go.
everything in the King James.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Wow.
that's a
The
He
only
lot.
knows
Bible that matters.
everything.
Just
in
kidding.
King James.
I'm being sarcastic.
I was gonna say rebellion was called the same as witchcraft in the Old Testament.
Yep.
In King James.
That is
in
correct.
King Jamesery.
That is correct. So the question is, how do these verses apply to us today?
How do those verses about sorcery and witchcraft and wizardry?
Yeah. And this is
Apply
where I
to
feel
us
like we can
today.
get like
Yeah.
super deep, like with the word, because I feel like
Well,
every word is kind of used
yeah.
a little differently.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones I pulled up was the word sorcery in Galatians 5:19, and it's actually the word pharmakia,
Yeah.
where we get pharmacy.
Yep.
The use of administering of drugs, poisoning, sorcery, magical arts, often found in connection with idolatry and fostered by it. So, I mean, I think like everything else, we have to take everything that we do and test the spirits. We've talked about this with Bible and culture a lot. And it's easy to write everything off as, oh, that's pagan, demons, sorcery, witchcraft, wizardry, which maybe it is. And so that's why we have to test the spirits.
careful.
But, you know, the Bible says we need to be in this world but not of it. What about you, Brent? You got some verses right there?
Yeah, I got a couple of them. I mean, some of these are not. I mean, these are the kind of verses that you think about. You're like, yeah, that's why we can't have that. Deuteronomy talks specifically about people being found sacrificing their sons or daughters in the fire, and it says,
okay.
practicing divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, casting spells, or is a medium or a spiritualist, or consults the dead. Anybody who does these things is detestable to the Lord. I think there's some really clear things, and I mean, when we talk about these things, I think one of the travesties of making magic so fun and light, as in watching even movies that talk about that stuff, like we look at like even the MCU and we look at superheroes and we're just like, oh, that's fun. Oh, what if there's a Superman, whatever. But I'm just thinking about for thousands of years, like the presence of evil or demonic forces, or the spirit world that is there that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
Like I just think that I think that for thousands of years, people have been very aware that these things are there, and that there are two different powers that are at war in this world.
Yeah.
And I think that we live most of our life not necessarily, most people anyway, not necessarily seeing the spiritual side of things, and we're just like, oh, that's coincidence, oh, that's God, oh, that's whatever,
or we're just entertained.
Yes, yeah, or we trivialize it so that it's just kind of like fun and whatever. But I do think that for many, many thousands of years, people have lived like as beholden to those ideas, where it caused religious ideas and precepts, where it even maybe has influenced. And I know some people have reasons why they don't participate in spiritual rituals that led to holidays like a Christmas or a solstice or a festival. But a lot of those things have all been connected and interconnected for thousands of years. So I think it's one of those catch-22s. Like I think that a lot of people in churches don't want to talk about it. We want to point towards Narnia. You know, we can or can't watch it. Lord of the Rings, we can or can't watch it. And I've heard Christians say that it's okay to watch Narnia that has very similar themes as Lord of the Rings, because at least Narnia tries to spiritualize it and like kind of encapsulate it with like a Christ figure, where Lord of the Rings really just kind of talks about the evil of this world and like good versus bad and that sort of thing. So I think it's kind of interesting how we spiritualize things, and everybody comes up with their reason why we should or should not engage in those conversations. So,
well, and like we've said before too, amusement, the American culture, we're so satiated with so much entertainment, and so amusement, we talked about it before, right? Muse, to think, amuse, not think. And so our culture, and I would say that there probably are pieces of our culture that seek to get us not to think, but the Bible very clearly wants us to think about what we're watching, what we're consuming, what we're doing. Jomel, anything you want to add there?
That's solid. I think you really kind of segued us into our second question, which is there any danger in media that features magic when it is kind of cautioned against within Scripture? His examples of things like WandaVision, Harry Potter, Dungeons and Dragons, which, by the way, in your introduction where you rolled the D20, he really did roll a 20.
I did.
Which was pretty amazing. So not only did he roll a D20, which, your chances are 1 out of 20, but you also nailed the introduction, like, first take, which is more rare than rolling a D20.
I rolled a 20 on my hosting.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, it was just the perfect storm. It was insane. Roll the clip of us talking about that right now. Perfect. That was like the best executed.
D20, dude.
I rolled a 20.
You rolled a nat 20. That's you really got the 20. That's why you actually rolled it. That's like literally why they did good. You got the nat 20 on the. You literally
that was an initiative roll.
Yeah,
that was an incantation right there.
Well done. That you guys don't know D&D. Coming back, and then like Lord of the Rings, World of Warcraft. As I think you put away your WoW cups. But
who has those?
I mean, what WoW cups?
World of Warcraft.
Never heard of it.
At least it didn't say World of Witchcraft. Then I couldn't play it.
Yeah, exactly.
World of Sorcery Craft.
No one should play it.
Can't play it.
Or just call it WoW. But I don't know. What do you think? Like, is there danger? I think we've kind of said like, yeah, there is a danger. However, like it's a danger that I don't know, like we have to explore and look into, and if we can, like objectively distinguish, like this is a fictional type of witchcraft and wizardry that's not what the Bible's referring to, then it's safe enough for, I guess, like entertainment, but to be careful of, like you said, amusement to the point of like idleness or dullness. But I don't know. Do you guys have a follow-up thoughts? Because I know you guys kind of already shared it.
You want to start this? Because I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a turn.
Oh, you're going to get all spiritual?
No.
You're going to get more spiritual than me?
No.
So I'm going to take the low road.
This is a youth pastor show. We don't get too spiritual here.
Yeah, not too spiritual.
Well, going back to that verse, I mean, think about this. This is in Deuteronomy. So if these are rules that were set out, I'm getting a buzzing.
I think it's just our...
if these were rules that were set out for an early Israeli culture, as they're like trying to form and try to understand, it's clear that these things were like, this was not just an arbitrary list. So apparently there were people that were literally sacrificing their sons and daughters in the fire. Yeah. And then there were also people that were practicing divination and sorcery. There were people that were interpreting omens, engaging in witchcraft, casting spells, or mediums or spiritualists who consult the dead. So I think there's two ways to this. Like you can either try to never engage in these things, but I think the danger on that side is not realizing that those things are truly really happening around us all the time. Yeah. So we can become so isolated that we're like, I don't want to talk about it. Don't talk about the bad things in the closet. And we never open the closet because we're so afraid everything is in there. And yet on the other side, I'm thinking like, I think it's important for us as Christians and also the nation of Israel, apparently it was important for them to know that these things are out there, they're in the world, and there's really two ways that you deal with things. You either trust a loving God that's like leading, guiding, directing, and he truly has our best intention at heart, or you're really up to the elements and you're trusting, if you're trying to consult with the dead. I mean, obviously it wasn't even a joke because it happened in the Old Testament. And so people actually went to do that, and they even tried to bring up like Samuel from the Old Testament to try to get to have a consult. And so the whole problem is that you're just not choosing God. And so I think there's a one side of the problem. I don't know which direction you're going, but I think one side of it of not addressing it ever is just trying to say, we don't want to think about it. Don't talk about the bad things. But I think that we're also not acknowledging the fact that those things are very much evil in the world, and that we live in a battle of good versus evil. And there are the spirits, and there are the prince, the power of the air. And I think those things, I think it's good for us to know that we live in a way that we're subject to Christ. And we don't have to fear that, because he that is in us is greater than he that is in the world. But I'd be remiss if I didn't teach the people around me that there is somebody that's in the world that's out to seek, to kill, and destroy. So
he's like a lion,
right?
Trying to devour you.
Yeah,
but
well,
not Aslan.
not
as
good lion.
I was like, not the good one.
Yeah, the bad kinds.
the bad lion.
Bad lions.
What were you gonna say, Jamel?
No, like I definitely like that. Just the concept that like there are bad things we have to address, but you can't just ignore them or just pretend like they don't exist, or just try to. I don't know. I'll let Chris go before I had.
I want to hear this deep diversion.
Well, it's not a deep diversion. I said a slight turn. So you talked.
We exaggerate everything on the show.
Yeah, I know. You talked about is there a danger to it, and relating it to youth ministry. I would say if your youth's parents are not okay with these types of things, then trying to get those youth involved in them there is a danger there, right?
Yeah.
Because then
you get fired.
You could get fired, but
so I've heard.
The Bible says don't let your brother stumble. So there could be a conversation with a parent about this is how we do this, watch this, participate in this activity, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or the MCU, all that kind of stuff. So I would say there potentially is a danger in it, on the sense of you don't want. The Bible says honor your mother and father. You don't want your youth kids thinking of you more highly than their parents, right? Yeah. And so...
but they're going to say, Pastor Brent does it.
Yeah, Pastor Brent does it.
Pastor Brent, please, Warcraft. Why can't I?
Yep.
So I've had that happen.
Yep.
I've had parents...
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I've had that happen where they had to set rules for their kids. That, to me, the rules were like arbitrary, but everybody has to have a line that they will pass. So like my dad... will watch Narnia, but he won't watch Lord of the Rings because it's too evil. Yeah. And I'm like, it's the same concept.
You've got the king, Return of the King.
Yeah, but I'm saying the concepts are very similar. So philosophically, I can look at it and say that one's down, like not dumbed down, but it's made for children to read at fourth grade levels so they can be able to understand it. I'm not pointing at Joe Mel. That's not what I was trying to say. I was just saying it's part of the theme what we're talking about.
It's meant for fourth graders.
Agists.
Okay, so to be fair, you know what is funny is I'm rereading Chronicles of Narnia as a mental break because I'm also reading Dune, that book. Have you ever heard of Dune, the 1980s? Like, it is one of the hardest to read
it's
novels.
difficult, yeah.
I think they got a movie coming out soon, right?
Huh?
They got the new movie coming out.
That's why we're reading. My wife and I are reading the book because the movie's coming out. It's very magical and stuff. It's super cool.
Right.
But because it strains my brain.
I just need a break. I need a break. I need to listen to the Talking Beaver.
Yeah, I kid you not. After 2 chapters of Frank Herbert,
I need you.
I'll read an entire Narnia book in between every chapter.
Mr. Tumnus, where are you?
Mr. Tumnus, come back. Prince Caspian.
Oh man.
But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like there is something to it that families, like my dad will make he makes a decision.
We'll do Narnia, but we won't do
about one or this, and which is okay. Yeah. I think that goes to the people's convictions. Like when we're playing World of Warcraft, I had some families that didn't allow their kids to roll different gender characters than themselves. So they had to be whatever they were.
They had a
in
line.
So in their life, like you have to be a human paladin because that is the only truly spiritual protector in this game. So you can't choose a cleric or a sorcerer or a warlock
or a female
or a
if you're
mage,
male.
or you could be a female.
So fun though.
Well, I'm just saying, but I'm saying that's a that's a line.
Yeah,
that was
crossing that.
They said play it, but
that was their line, and also they said that their kids couldn't play on
Evil
the bad
characters.
guys team.
Yeah.
So they couldn't be horde. They had to always be alliance. They always had to be the good guys.
Yeah.
So for me, like I'm not judging the family's decision for that, but I'm saying, so is there feeling towards the game? It's not about the role-playing game, or is it? Because they don't want their kids to participate in a role that's not really truly who they are. So at that point, they're not allowed to be in a RPG because they don't want their kids to RPG. So I was like, well, then just let them first-person shooter, But then they can't do that because now that makes them
now
violent.
you're shooting people.
So does that make sense? Like, I'm not trying to be controversial,
No, I'm
but
following you. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's a really interesting concept of like, so for me, like I obviously don't have too many rules when it comes to D&D, but my only rule is, like I let people roll however they want because you are in a fictitious world. But my only rule is no evil. Like you make your character a lawful good, chaotic, neutral evil, whatever, or neutral good.
You just can't be fully evil.
Just don't be evil.
Chaotic evil you can't have.
Because not only one is it annoying for everyone else, because if you're rolling evil, that means that you're like contradicting what everyone else is trying to do. But it's like if there's one headspace that I feel like people shouldn't be in, it is evil, which is like, where good and evil comes from our God. Like God is, instilled good and evil within us. So it is like the direct contradictory.
So you were saying that you see the reason for those things, but
yeah, like I could see that, like, obviously setting something. So for me, like, again, like I know it's more controversial, but I could care less if a boy pretends to be a girl for an hour, like, is it to be silly and he's not actually going through a gender struggle, But for me, it's like, yeah, like that whole, like, to put yourself in an evil mind space, like, let's kill innocents, let's hurt, like, let's not follow the cause and help the people. That's like a mind space where it's like, that's not about silly magic or jokes or anything. This is like a biblical thing.
Right.
Like, don't get in that mind space. And also, like, yeah, to bounce off of what Chris was saying, I feel like maybe a lot of youth pastors might be watching this episode right now because they're thinking like, man, I'm into this stuff. But like, am I allowed to be? Like, how am I, what if my kids aren't? And I think that just goes back to like youth pastoring 101. Like, they're like, as saved with the laws of liberty, like, I think every youth pastor probably lives a little bit more like, like lives differently than they're the kids in their youth group. But there is that Romans 14 principle of just like stumbling blocks and like, yeah, like, I don't want to say censorship, but like, yeah, like we do censor certain things about ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's censorship. I think that's not being a stumbling block.
Yeah, well, it's a personal censorship,
And I think, just to be fair to the older generation, I guess I am that. So I guess the older generation.
Whoa, no, Brent.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you feel of me deep down, but I think that even the name, the reason why my parents can't abide Dungeons and Dragons is because it sounds so dark and deep.
Yeah.
So if it had less the chaotic evil sounding, like if they could call it, paths and prophecies, or prophets and prophetesses. I'm just thinking that I think that the name itself lends itself. If you look at all the marketing, if you look at everything about it, it looks pretty dark. It looks pretty evil. Like it's intentionally, I think, marketed to make that happen.
Sure.
If you look at Magic, like even the game, The Gathering, like everything is meant to be pointing towards the supernatural in a way that has like a negative part. And I don't think that people really think about like how we describe something can really affect people's perception of it, because there's no way my parents could even get behind that at all. And I don't think that if I even told them that Narnia was very similar to like D&D as far as in conceptual like ideologies,
the background,
like, I don't think I think at that point my dad would be like, oh, then Narnia has to go
Narnia's
too,
out.
because that's Dungeons and Dragons trying to like look like the Angel of Light.
That's the fourth grade Dungeons and Dragons.
So does that make sense?
No, that
like,
makes a lot of sense. I think like there's a lot of impact like artwork can do. Just like the way that you portray something, like just the cover art. Like if I were to put like two cover art on the screen of like something like, or here's a better example, right? Like
that's dark.
So, and I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. Like you have to, look beyond the cover to see the actual content. Because I'm sure I could whip up a pretty dark image from the Narnia universe.
Totally.
It's even more embarrassing because the copies of Narnia that I have also have pictures.
So your Narnia is the picture book.
Color by number book
from middle school. I still have those lying around.
But to go to it, I think this is what sells.
Yeah.
I think you want to see dark, you want to see skulls, you want to see Army of the Dead, and I think that's what what is the show that just failed recently? I was talking about beforehand.
Justice League.
Game of Thrones. Like the whole thing had this they had this thing with these demon zombie things. Like it was like this weird mystical thing between dragons, and so there was some sort of magic, but it was supposed to be a grounded universe with supernatural. But I think that people are attracted to that. Yeah. And I think they're attracted to it from the lost perspective. I think they're attracted to it from the wrong direction. Yeah. I think like that the draw to the occult side, I think it's very much there.
Yep.
And I think that people want to believe in stuff, and they want to check their horoscopes, and they want to know what does somebody say about my future, and they want to get their fortune read.
Yep.
And I think there's a danger there for Christians playing with that stuff, it's just fun. Like let's let somebody read like my tarot cards, or let somebody read my palm. And I think that we're playing at that point. That might be one of those places. Like that's a weird place to draw a line, Brent. But for me, I don't want to be involved with somebody that could potentially actually be using divination or sorcery to like talk about my family line and how many kids I'm gonna have. But I think we all did that when we were kids.
When it becomes real,
right?
So you actually, it's perfect because this ties into. Sorry, Tony. I'm gonna clump questions 3, 4, and 5 into one question.
Tony, you're a genius, by the way. Our writer, Tony, he comes up with all these great ideas.
Because basically 3, 4, and 5 all have to do with like, do you draw the line on the occult, tarot cards, Ouija boards, incantation, palm reading, and I think that for me, I'm definitely very much against those things. Like I know I might sound like a flaming Christian liberal because I love like D&D and like like I love World of Warcraft and stuff.
Please illustrate that concept right now.
Great adjectives, bro.
All Christians matter. That's but you know what I mean.
Yes.
So like because I'm super into a lot of those things, but I have a very strong conservative line when it comes to those things, and I was wondering like, how do I explain that?
Yep.
And I think you explained it well, like because that's when those things, when you apply it to real life, like a horoscope, and you apply it to you, it's not like a silly fictitious. Like the thing that all these things have in common is it's like not our universe, except Narnia, where you access it through a wardrobe.
Right.
But like everything else,
that's real.
Yeah, it's like it's supposed to be the real world combined with a magic wardrobe. But like everything else, it's like it's set in a fictitious universe where you set everything aside and know that like. But this is when you're bringing demons which are real in our universe, and you're applying them to your real life.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about like the occult line when it comes to this stuff?
I mean, Dungeons and Dragons specifically is a system that you use, like you say, to make up fictitious things, And so the movies, again, they might be hiding whatever occult cultish things in them, and so that's where we have to be wise as serpent, innocent as doves, and try and figure out like my student specifically, are they able to handle this? Because even potentially a Narnia, maybe a student couldn't handle for some reason, but and to the imagery we were talking about too, right? It's they want to get you into it. And so there could even be a line, for some students where it's like getting them into Dungeons and Dragons will get them into the occult. And so,
especially people that are more spiritually like kind of predisposed to those kind of things.
Yeah.
I think we have to be wise because I don't want to lead anybody astray.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like specific verses that say that exactly. Yeah. Be wary, or you don't want to be the person that causes one of these young ones to fall away, because you might as well tie a millstone around your neck and throw yourself into the ocean. Yep. That's a pretty strict warning. Yeah. And so I think there's also another thing, and this might be from the older ones looking like. We might not see the world at the same level that the generations before us have seen it. So I know that the Baptist, you mentioned Baptist church, history, like there's a strict guideline about not using cards at all, not using dice at all,
dancing.
No dice, so if there are these moral rules that were passed down through generational denominationalism, and for whatever reason, if they don't want tarot cards, so they don't want bicycle playing cards either. Is it because it's gambling, or is it because it's cards and because there's fate?
Association.
The association. The same thing with rolling dice. Like, so if witchcraft and if witch doctors would drop bones and they would like look for omens or whatever. Like, I think there's a symbolism that we're doing the same thing by looking for random chance and numbers. And so I can understand somebody being like, I don't think that's a good thing to do for those reasons. But I'm not going to say that's not necessarily a problem that I have. And I don't think I realize it when I'm playing a video game that everything is off of random chance numbers. So if you're playing a video game, there's RNG that happens all the time. I have an RNG generator, so I can push a button. I think, Jesse, you do too, where you can just push a button that just RNG and just tells you yes or no, or a number from 1 to 100.
Well, and Siri can even do that.
Right? So I think that, like, once again, if I threw a dice and if somebody saw me throw a die or whatever, then people would be like, oh my gosh, what's he doing? But if I push a button on my iPhone, it's doing the exact same thing digitally, but people don't see it as the same level of sin. And I think that's one of those things. Like, my parents might not have a problem with me playing World of Warcraft, but if I told them that it was really based off the engine of Dungeons and Dragons, or Myst, or Unreal, that they would be like, oh yeah, my son shouldn't be playing. Does that make sense?
Well, and you see the disciples casting lots, right? After Judas did his whole charade,
right? We can't say that word because we don't want to get banned from YouTube and the
Judas
algorithm.
or charade?
Right? Huh?
Wait, what word? Judas or charade?
No. What Judas did.
Casting lots?
No, you can't. Don't say it. We'll get banned. There's a word that we will say, and YouTube will ban us right now.
I want to say it. What are we talking about?
You can't say it.
I want to say the word.
No, you can't say it.
But anyway,
Where he decided to jump off of a tree with a rope and then didn't make it to the ground completely. Don't say that. You can't speak of such
edit
things.
this show.
He was playing Hangman.
We're getting banned.
we just got banned right
And
now.
we talked about the Muppets.
This is so funny. I'm going to beat myself out for this, and it's going to sound like a cuss.
So the disciples cast lots to decide who was going to be the next disciple, and it wasn't like, oh, just random guy on the street, you want to be the next disciple. It was guys that were with Christ, right? That there were requirements for it, but then it was like, you guys are both good. We're going to cast lots and let God decide, right? Because we call it random number generator, but God knows every time you push that button, every time I roll this die, he knows what number it's going to be.
RNG is random number generator? Dude.
You didn't know that?
Yeah,
Mind blown. But
I thought it was just short for random.
What about the Old Testament, and what about the priests?
Yeah.
Urim and the Thummim.
Yeah, with their breastplate and like them, like they're. So there's been some random
And
number
Jonah.
generation.
They cast lots and
systems,
threw
right?
Jonah off.
So I just think, like, before, like, wherever you stand on this issue, and like, we're not here to tell you what to think. We're just trying to say I think there's more to the conversation, because I think that it's really easy for us to say that's bad, we can't do it, and we're not going to allow our people to do it. But people are going to look at what I do and say, oh, what he's doing is bad, and we're not going to allow them to talk to Brent because Brent is on the evil side. But I think before we start casting everybody out, see casting, get it, guys? Put casting in
I
there.
got it.
Before we do that, I just think that we need to have a conversation. What is the thing that we're really actually against? Are we against the role playing? Are we against the gender? Are we against the good versus evil? Are we against making something very, very extremely dark light, fun, and like Smurfy? Like, is that what's causing the problem? Or is it because that we're neglecting the fact that the evil realm exists and we're trying to act oblivious to the fact? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of those questions that are worth discussing.
Yeah. I mean, to take this to an even further level, a thought that crossed my mind earlier, I was like, I don't even know if I should say it because I was like, this might spiral.
We're already there.
Bleep.
Chris already took us to a deep corner.
Chris with this deep dive the other direction. But I remember, like, I saw like a tweet someone, because over the last couple of weeks we've been like laughing and joking a lot about like how silly cancel culture has become. Like, let's address the elephant in the room. Like, we've been joking about it a lot, right? Like the doctors.
What is he talking about?
You can't address
What?
elephants.
What is it?
Elephants are canceled.
Elephants. No Horton, here's a who.
It's okay. But like someone brought up like I remember like I think I saw on Facebook or Twitter, like somebody brought up one like, how come Christians are suddenly so upset about cancel culture now when like in the 90s they were the ones canceling culturing Dungeons and Dragons and
Magic
Lord of the
the
Rings. And I was
Gathering.
like, obviously there's a lot of differences, but I read that like, okay, touche. kind of a point in there. In that, Christians in the 90s, I would say like there was an overstretch and like, you know, like a neglecting the First Amendment and just trying to, you know, like we're not going to spiritualize. I think just the pendulum has swung, obviously, and it's a completely different direction now. But it does like kind of get you think like, yeah, like first of all, like we can't control Hollywood. We can't control what's going on. Like the best that we can control is our own families. Mm-hmm. And as your youth pastors, it's our own youth groups, you know, the things that we promote. And even then there's differences, like Chris said, what the family promotes might be more conservative or might be more loose than what we do at youth. But we have to keep like that, like we have to figure out where our lines are.
I just think that even within our own youth group, you've got families. I mean, you were saying like, what is the line for our church or youth group? And I was like, I understand what you're saying, but I think that we've got some families that our youth ministry is too worldly, so they don't want to give their kids to us because they're afraid that some of our less godly kids are going to affect them. Yeah. And then I've got some kids that come and they're just like all over the place. Sure. So I think even as youth pastors, we're kind of looking at like if the spectrum of my youth group is here, I need to figure out a biblical line, and then I need to be able to speak intelligently to both sides of that line. Yeah. So if your family, like if your family's saying don't, I had to teach kids honor your parents, and they were mad that I was able to do something that they weren't able to do, and I was like, well, you need to honor your parents. Like, like you can make that choice, and I support you making that choice once you grow up, move out, get your own place, and now your parents are in a different relationship with you. But right now, you're 15 years old. Like, you don't have the right to make that call. That's your parents trying to protect you in some way, and that might be like censorship, but I think that every parent is really responsible for trying to guide their kid through this world that is pretty much uncensored at all. And so now what, as a parent, do you choose to protect your kids from? So everybody could be seen as being a censor at some point that way. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And to like we should be censors in our households. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like I agree. Like I think cancel culture is silly, and I don't think, you know, I don't think it was the Christians' real place, like especially in the 90s. I understand where they were coming from. Obviously, like I was a Christian in the 90s. You know, it's like you get where they're coming from. Like you don't want to see like these dark things becoming normalized in Hollywood. But the reality is like that was the way it was always going to be. Like it was just a matter of time before it got that way. But we have a responsibility as Christians to censor or protect what we do have influence over. And I think that we have to figure out where those lines are. For me, it's evil and the occult.
Right. Well, and this might be a whole different. We don't have enough time to go into this. Like Tony, you ask really great questions that make us think about a lot. But I think the difference between Christians not participating in something and cancel culture, like I don't think that Christians ever had the power to cancel anything. So them saying, well, even in those things, like those things still existed. Like Eminem never came off the shelves. He made more money. They put parent disclaimers on there. But that's not canceling. That's warning.
Well,
so that's not saying if I went to go research Eminem, I can't find him. But now there's currently things that I can try to research. If I went to look at Blue Anon right now, I can't find it. It's been erased in the last 2 weeks. So, and maybe that hurts us for saying such a thing. But if I say something that actually a Google engine has physically removed from the information of the planet, like that's a truly different thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, I'm not disagreeing with that Christians don't have the ability to say something, and they might have like gone over like on Smurfs or whatever. But my parents,
but they didn't have the power in the 90s that the left or like I don't want to make it sound
whoever.
But like the more strict side of things didn't have that power in the 90s
to make things completely disappear.
I would say they probably wanted to.
Yeah, they may have tried.
They probably wanted to, but it just wasn't going to happen.
I would say
the people in control.
I would say the majority of Christians in that time were canceling it in their
house.
sphere of in the house, in the church.
It was like, let's burn it at our little youth group bonfire. With a hope that maybe we could get Hollywood to shut things down, but it wasn't happening. But now that it's happening on the opposite end, they have that power.
I'm sure there were some that wanted to try and make it so that Hollywood and Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons couldn't make stuff, but
couldn't happen.
There was a Dr. Seuss bonfire in San Diego last week.
Oh my.
See, if we're getting to book burning, I just get really hesitant about that because I think there needs to be a free flowing of ideas, even ideas I disagree with.
Yeah.
I believe there needs to be the people need to be able to make a choice and decide.
Yeah.
So
and
I think
just
that
the whole
really
counter argument was like, but didn't Christians make up the whole book burning thing in the 90s? Which I mean is like we did, but we didn't make it up. No, but like we did do that during the 90s. But again, so we're saying like, yeah, it's fair to look back and say maybe some of that was too much. Maybe we should have looked deeper and tried to understand and just say, hey, we don't do this in our house instead of burning books and maybe contradicting the First Amendment.
Yep. So here's another little turn to the right.
Here we go again.
We won't go too far on this. I know we got
this episode's extended, but it's a good conversation.
But here's what I would say about getting into it is one, and I would say I'm not very great at this, but I can get better in it, is getting into these things allows you the opportunity to talk to people that are not Christian, right? And so if you're into World of Warcraft and, Brent's friends on World of Warcraft, know that he is a pastor, now he has an opportunity to share with them, hey man, World of Warcraft isn't my life. Maybe it is your life. You're playing World of Warcraft 24 hours a day. I have a job, and so, one thing that these things can allow us to do is to get, again, like I said, in the world but not of the world. So we can be playing the games. We can, we have the opportunity now to go, hey, I'm not all about being evil or being a part of the occult or killing innocents in a fictitious game, because I believe in Jesus, and so.
But we will kill the bad guys mercilessly.
Yeah, there we go. But one thing some of these things will allow us to do is get into the world so that we can point out the need of the gospel. So
that's good.
And I guess like one final thought. Sorry, I know we're already over, but like I also like one thing that you brought up, like things like D&D. D&D isn't necessarily a universe; it's a system.
Yeah.
Games like World of Warcraft are very open-ended, and maybe one thing that maybe some people might get from this episode too is a lot of these magic things. If you're maybe more comfortable with magic, but you're not sure how dark these things really are, a lot of these things are just as dark as you want them to be.
Yeah.
Like games like World of Warcraft, like it's as evil as I guess you want, or maybe more so D&D.
Yeah.
D&D specifically, I think is going to be a big. It has been. It's because it's gaining popularity over
again
the last 2 years. It's really popping back up, and D&D is really as evil as you want it to be, and it's as wholesome as you want it to be. Maybe not everyone knows that, but it's a universe that you build yourself. That's the whole concept. It's a system to make up fiction and be creative. I don't know. Just thought I'd throw that fact in there too.
Yeah, and if you're having a problem with creating stuff that's not real, I think that some of the older generation, they don't like people living in imaginary worlds. Like when you're role playing, it's because you're not satisfied with your current life. So I think there's a perspective of why we do it, because I think that people are just saying, well, why do you have to do that? Well, I don't have to do that. I don't have to play Monopoly anyway. But if I'm playing Monopoly, am I not immersing myself as a bank tycoon trying to like slumlord people
going around
out
this square
and then take everybody's money? Like if I play the game of life, like okay, I've got my little car and there's like the little blue pegs and little pink pegs and I'm trying to like get a house and get whatever. There's like I just think that when we talk about playing games, it's really easy to throw stones because we don't think that all game playing is innately, if we play tag, what is that fundamentally? What is that developmentally? What is that psychologically? And so I just think that before we start casting our lots or casting stones at people that play whatever level of game, just understand that is there a place for game playing? Is there not? And then if you're having those conversations with your kids, I think that you can have that with your family. Like my family was always big on explaining why our family did or didn't do things, and they would say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And so there was a Bible verse and there was a mantra and there was an understanding of how come I was not allowed to go to parties that had alcohol. And it wasn't that alcohol is bad, it was just that for our family, we want to make sure that our life is lived in a certain way. And so that was my parents' perception. That was their worldview. And then it was able to be understood. And so as I grew up and then I started seeing people that didn't believe like I believed, then at least I had a place of common talk to say, here's what my family believes. It's not that you're wrong, but this is where my family is right now. So I think those are all great. So thank you once again, Tony, for all your conversations and questions. And Jomel for consolidating all that stuff down.
It was awesome. It was fun. I again, obviously people know where I stand. I love a lot of these things,
right?
But I agree. I wouldn't do any of these things if I felt like they were a stumbling block. If I felt like there was a spiritual unpeace and there was something. But I feel good about him, and that's why I enjoyed this conversation.
Yep.
Chris, do you want to wrap
Yeah,
us
let's
out?
close it off. Thanks for watching the UIC show. We're so glad you're here, and we hope to see you next time. Share this with a friend. Make sure you ring that bell. Subscribe. Put some comments in the comment section if we were completely wrong on anything.
Let us
know.
Let us know. Or we were completely right on something. Let us know. So yeah, thanks for being here, and we will see you next time.
Wingardium Leviosa,
It's
Whoa.
Leviosa.
Expecto Patronum.
I was just gonna say thanks for taking the ride.
Trying to summon
Cornbread.
some Harry Potter spells. I think I did burn a Harry Potter book in middle school.
Wow.
Oh, you can.
Dopey dub dub.
Cornbread.
Cornbreadioso.
Cornbreadioso.
You just like make plates of cornbread. That's your Class B superpower, bro.
Oh, dude, that'd be perfect.
You could totally make plates of cornbread.
Dude, that would be
Bro,
an awesome.
I think you have an hour of content.
Dude, we need to.